As Neil succumbs to a profound slumber, Cornelius emerges from the shadows with calculated precision. In the deep blackness of night, his yellow eyes gleam like twin moons, casting an eerie glow that highlights his slender silhouette. Cornelius moves with silent grace toward the decrepit shed, nestled in Charnwood's farthest corner, its weathered wood creaking softly underfoot like whispers from forgotten times. Inside this forsaken structure, a peculiar scent hangs heavy, a mixture of earthy decay and an indefinable otherness that makes one's skin crawl. A sack lies suspended in the center of the shed, its contents preserved within a viscous fluid that glows faintly with unnatural luminescence, a defiance against all known natural laws. Cornelius reaches inside this eldritch container to retrieve the harvested brains. Their surface glistens eerily under his touch, sending shivers down his spine, fueling an unsettling thrill. With ritualistic care bordering on reverence, he cleans each organ methodically. His elongated fingers dance with surgical precision over the delicate tissue. Their movements whisper, quiet in the stillness of night. Each brain is bathed and scrubbed clean until it gleams unnaturally white under his flickering lantern light, a macabre preparation for what's to come. Cornelius then prepares a brine from ancient herbs, each with a potent aroma that fills the air. Mingling with the tangy scent of mandrake roots steeped in lore, he murmurs incantations softly into the thickening darkness. His voice is an ethereal melody causing ripples through reality itself. His words hang suspended like mist, intertwining with the herbal vapors. The vegetables and herbs he gathers are not merely garnishes, but sacred offerings arranged meticulously according to celestial alignments only Cornelius can perceive, a map of stars guiding him in this unholy rite. The crisp scent of fresh basil mingles with pungent garlic as they find their destined places on his preparation table, each element vital for the feast and its arcane purposes. On parchment infused with substances whose names are whispered only in hushed reverence or fear, Cornelius pens his menu, an anthology of macabre delights. Each dish is meticulously crafted not merely for sustenance, but to fortify his dominion over Neil and this shadowy realm, where the boundaries between worlds blur under the influence of such dark feasts. His mind thrums with anticipation as he envisions how these creations will weave their power, strengthening both body and spirit against forces untold. And so, Cornelius continues his preparations beneath a sky filled with ancient stars, a master orchestrating an event that transcends time itself in this eerie 17th century night in a dark shed at the bottom of Charnwood. In the dim glow of moonlight filtering through broken shutters, Neil's small shack creaks as he paces its cramped quarters. The wooden floorboards groan beneath his feet, each step echoing in a symphony of weariness that reverberates within him. His mind is clouded with an unnatural drowsiness, but something inside him, a flicker of defiance, ignites. The air around Neil feels thick and heavy, the musty scent of aged wood mingling with faint traces of damp soil from outside. Determination wells up in his chest as he resolutely pulls on his warmest coat. Each movement is deliberate, buttoning it against the biting chill that seeps into every crevice. Stepping outside, Neil breathes deeply, inhaling the crisp night air, a sharp contrast to the stagnant atmosphere of his home. The familiar paths of Charnwood stretch before him like old friends and strange strangers both. Leaves crackle underfoot, their dry rustling whispering secrets of past seasons into his ears. Though much has fallen into ruin, overgrown brambles claw at neglected fences, the land holds a comforting constancy that anchors Neil in the moment. With every breath he draws, memories flood back. The warmth of Zach's laughter echoing through time, and the earthy scent of tobacco from his father's pipe, now just an echo among shadows. Neil pauses on a familiar path, where wildflowers once bloomed with vibrant hues under summer suns. Now they stand muted in the moonlight, pale spectres yearning for life. Yet within him, something resolute stirs. "I will restore this place," he whispers into the night air, his words hanging like promises etched against the stars. Returning to his shack with renewed purpose, Neil kneels and retrieves a worn wooden box from beneath loose floorboards. As he opens it, each object brings forth vivid sensory experiences that connect him to who he once was. The soft touch of the wooden spoon he had made for his mother, smoothed by decades of loving use, reminds him of warm kitchens filled with laughter. A small toy horse crafted for Zach emerges next, a simple gift from simpler times, the delicate smell of wood lingering on its carved surface, evoking memories tinged with innocence and joy. Lastly, he grasps his father's pipe. The bowl's darkened rim still carries a faint scent of tobacco that conjures images of firelight flickering against shadowy walls. As Neil clutches these talismans to himself, an excruciating pain blinds him for an instant, sharp as shattered glass behind closed eyelids. He staggers upright, gripping the wall with one hand, his breath catching in a tumultuous blend of relief and anguish. Despite the allure of gin, a liquid oblivion that promises temporary solace, he resists tonight more firmly than ever before. This brief triumph is overshadowed by an unseen battle raging beyond perception. Cornelius rages silently within him, writhing against Neil's growing resistance. In this shadowy interstice between dimensions, a cold, alien resolve takes hold of Cornelius. This host must suffer for his interference, a lesson carved in torment and desperation. Yet amidst it all, Neil clings to the fragile hope that he might reclaim both himself and Charnwood from whatever darkness seeks to claim them. And with each heartbeat resonating through the night, Neil's small rebellion becomes a beacon, albeit flickering, in an ever-encroaching shadow. In the dimly lit confines of Neil's modest shack, shadows dance along weathered wooden walls as moonlight filters through a single window pane. Neil lies on an unmade cot, his breath shallow in the still night air, heavy with anticipation and dread. The darkness is suddenly torn apart by flickering images that invade Neil's mind like malevolent specters, visions of blood-stained landscapes and faces contorted in terror. These grotesque scenes shift rapidly as Cornelius manipulates them with cold precision. At their center stands a figure, not the familiar visage of Neil, but an entity so ancient it defies comprehension. The silence is shattered by whispers that coil around Neil's consciousness like serpents, each hiss a name, each breath a cry from those he had unknowingly harmed. Cornelius's voice interweaves with these cries, its tone chillingly detached, yet filled with sadistic satisfaction as it narrates the horrors unfolding. As visions play out in excruciating clarity, Neil's skin feels like stretched parchment over bone. The sensation of cold metal against his flesh lingers, a ghostly reminder of Cornelius's manipulations when he harvests brains from his victims while inhabiting Neil's body. A bitter tang coats the back of Neil's throat, the taste of fear and guilt mingling with an unsettling metallic flavor, as if poisoned by truth. The lingering remnants in his mouth seem to thicken, each swallow a struggle against overwhelming despair. An acrid stench invades Neil's senses, a sickly blend of iron-rich blood mixed with the decay that Cornelius leaves behind after claiming another life. It clings stubbornly to Neil's nostrils, a vile testament to his unwilling complicity in these atrocities. The revelation is torturous. Each memory is a needle thrust into the fabric of Neil's soul, unraveling who he thought himself to be and replacing it with an abomination reflected back at him. Yellow eyes that gleam like two malevolent moons pierce through the darkness, eyes that should belong to someone else, yet are bound by flesh upon his own frame. His lips part in a silent scream as Cornelius ensures there is no escape, no respite from this mind's prison. The faces of those he unwittingly killed flash before him, some pleading for mercy with eyes wide and full of hope, others resigned to their fate in quiet desperation. Cornelius orchestrates each scene meticulously, hands that should have been his working with unnerving precision, cutting, slicing, extracting life itself. Neil is consumed by a maelstrom of emotions. Disbelief intertwines with horror. Denial struggles against the crushing weight of truth. His heart feels as though it's being torn from his chest, while his mind reels in desperate chaos. In this hellish tableau, Cornelius pauses momentarily to let Neil's consciousness fracture just enough for him to regain some semblance of awareness, only long enough before returning to continue his sinister work outside Neil's mental prison. This duality serves its purpose: punishment and distraction, a dual blade ensuring that when morning comes, Neil will be too broken, both physically and emotionally, to intervene. As the visions fade into darkness once more, leaving only a haunting echo of what transpired, Neil lies motionless, his mind a battlefield scarred by revelations he never wanted to know. Cornelius's grip on him tightens further with every passing moment. His vengeance is far from over, and neither is Neil's torment. Neil gasps for air as consciousness slowly seeps back into his senses, a sensation akin to surfacing from a deep dive where every breath is precious. His body feels as though it has been through an ordeal, drenched in sweat that clings to his skin like a second layer, sticky and oppressive. The taste of salt lingers on his tongue, a stark reminder of the countless times he must have expelled air during this tormenting nightmare. The room around him, a simple shack with weathered walls, feels alien yet intimately familiar. A dull stench of old wood mixed with the lingering odor of smoke from an unattended fire pervades the space, grounding Neil in reality after his harrowing visions. His throat is raw and parched, a testament to screams that clawed their way out without permission or conscious thought. Neil sits up slowly, his body protesting each movement with aches he hadn't noticed before. The physical cost of resisting something unimaginable. The air tastes metallic as it fills his lungs. The aftermath of fear leaves an unsettling flavor on his palate. His mind is consumed by thoughts of the amulet, a small, enigmatic artifact that had become both a focus and symbol for all that was wrong since his mother's untimely death. It lay hidden beneath the loose floorboards in this very shack, floorboards he couldn't recall ever loosening himself. The cold metal now rests within Neil's trembling grasp, sending an electric shiver up his spine. As soon as Neil touches it, a wave of clarity crashes over him with unexpected force, a cool and rational presence contrasting sharply against the chaos that had consumed him moments before. It's like opening a window on a stifling day. Suddenly he can breathe again, albeit cautiously. This connection brings an onslaught of revelations. The amulet is not only the source through which Cornelius gained entry into Neil's world, but also serves as the very tether binding this malevolent entity to reality, a lock and key all at once. This knowledge dawns on him with startling lucidity. A mix of awe and fear courses through his veins. More astonishing truths unravel in his mind. The music he had been compelled to create, which Cornelius manipulated to strengthen his hold, could be repurposed as an instrument of liberation, a weapon against the darkness that pervaded his life. It's a revelation that sends chills down Neil's spine. Not just any music, but crafted vibrations designed specifically to disrupt and repel Cornelius. Through visions sharper than anything he'd previously experienced, Neil perceives these sounds in vivid detail, notes as tangible as physical entities, each one capable of destabilizing the entity's very essence. The experience is overwhelming, yet exhilarating. An orchestra conducted by his own will, rather than fear-induced coercion. Crucially, Neil learns to shield Cornelius from this newfound knowledge, a mental barrier constructed with urgency and determination. He realizes that Cornelius's arrogance, the belief in its absolute control over him, has left critical vulnerabilities unguarded. Now every moment is charged with purpose. The shack transforms into a makeshift workshop where instruments are arranged methodically, each one modified by Neil's quivering yet determined hands. As he experiments with different sound combinations, it feels as if reality itself bends and warps in response, a symphony of potential change orchestrated by his own initiative. The demands of sleep gnaw at the edges of his consciousness like persistent whispers from a long-forgotten dream. Despite exhaustion clawing its way into Neil's every thought, he knows surrender is but temporary, an interlude before the true battle commences. With this understanding comes resolve. Although worn and weary, Neil prepares himself for what lies ahead, armed with the power of music as both shield and sword. In his shack at Charnwood Farmstead, surrounded by darkness that feels deeper now, he acknowledges a truth he can no longer deny. This is just the beginning. In the dimly lit shack at Charnwood Farmstead, a sense of foreboding lingers like an oppressive fog. The room is small and cluttered, but tonight it plays host to something far more sinister than its usual inhabitants could ever imagine. Cornelius sits, or rather looms, at the table with a calculated grace that belies his monstrous intent. The once humble wooden surface has been commandeered for a purpose both dark and arcane. A stolen black cloth drapes over it, hiding years of scratches and stains beneath layers of eerie perfection. The dishes are arranged meticulously, a macabre tapestry crafted not just from food, but from the essence of minds long since extinguished. Each brain bears witness to an unnatural preparation, some poached in rich red wine that spills its fragrance into the air like forbidden incense. Others baked with fragrant herbs whose aroma clashes with the underlying scent of decay and horror. Cornelius uncorks a bottle of exquisite wine, its aroma rich with notes of dark berries and oak. This liquid treasure had been stolen from a wealthy merchant whose lifeless mind now sits at the epicenter of Cornelius's culinary designs. The struggle to acquire it was fierce, 2 bottles lost, yet what remains is ample for his needs. As he sips this decadent wine, its flavor enveloping his palate like velvet darkness, interwoven with sweet complexity. A terrible smile curls the edges of his thin lips, a blend of triumph and something darker still. As Cornelius begins his feast, he moves through this ghastly array with a scholar's precision. His hands, elongated fingers betraying his otherworldliness, navigate each utensil as though conducting an orchestra of madness. Each bite is taken in savorous contemplation, the crunch of bone interspersed with softer textures that slide down his throat like whispers. The stillness in the shack amplifies every sound. The clink of silverware against china, the rustle of Cornelius's cloak as he shifts impatiently. These sounds dance a macabre ballet, all witnessed by Neil through the eyes and ears of Cornelius. Yet, this careful ceremony cannot last forever. As each dish is consumed with methodical abandon, the shack begins to warp around him. The shadows stretch and twist along the walls like living entities drawn by Cornelius's feast, a gathering darkness that threatens to engulf both feaster and space alike. Neil feels it all, the metallic taste lingering in his mouth despite not partaking, a sickening heaviness tugging at his chest. The air grows thick with something primal, an intoxicating blend of power and peril that seeps into every corner. With each bite Cornelius takes, he loses himself further to frenzy. His once deliberate movements become erratic. Utensils fall from slackened fingers as they grasp hungrily for the next morsel. Drips of brain tissue splatter against his chin, mingling with perspiration and staining him in a grotesque parody of savor. And then, the climax. Cornelius, his head back, mouth open, releases an unearthly cry that tears through the shack like a storm unleashed upon calm seas. The sound is an amalgamation of rage, triumph, and something ineffably otherworldly, a scream that reverberates in the marrow of one's bones and sets every nerve on fire. For just a moment, it seems as though reality itself bends under this outburst. The wooden walls groan under some invisible strain before snapping back into their familiar rigidity. Yet not all has returned to normalcy. Amidst the chaos of Cornelius's triumph, a fleeting glimpse of something shifts within Neil. A subtle spark ignites in his mind, a burgeoning resistance that coils tightly around Cornelius's essence like an unseen serpent. It is faint but growing stronger with every pulse, an ember of hope amid the consuming darkness. Unbeknownst to Cornelius, absorbed by his own madness and triumph, this ember hints at a new dawn, a possibility for Neil's reclaimed soul amidst the ruins of its sacrifice. Neil sits, surrounded by this chaos of creativity, driven by a need both desperate and profound. His eyes dart across scores, scrawled in frantic haste, his fingers tracing their jagged lines like one seeking salvation within inked pathways. The room is alive with an atmosphere oscillating between faint hope and creeping despair, as Neil tests yet another musical combination. His movements are methodical, but frenzied, hands dancing over strings and keys that hum dissonantly under the strain of his will. Each note vibrates through him, resonant with both power and uncertainty. The soundscape is a cacophony, hauntingly beautiful in its otherworldliness, as if each chord pulls at threads woven into reality itself. As Neil presses on, there's an audible shift. Subtle distortions ripple across the air before his eyes. A specific sequence of notes creates visual aberrations that shimmer like heat waves or refracted light. His heart races with cautious optimism. This breakthrough might be the key to staving off Cornelius's encroachment. Yet as he observes these distortions, a gnawing realization settles over him. The music slows Cornelius, but lacks something crucial. It's not just about delaying, it's about understanding what remains absent in his symphony of resistance. Relief washes through Neil like a rare blessing during nights when Cornelius fails to emerge. In those precious hours, he sleeps uninterrupted, gathering strength from dreams untainted by the entity's dark presence. His mind clears with each undisturbed rest, lucid moments where thought processes sharpen rather than fray under stress. With renewed vigor upon awakening, Neil meticulously documents his findings. He hides notes in places Cornelius would never think to search, tucked inside hollows of instruments or behind loose floorboards that creak beneath the weight of secrets. As he writes, there's a growing dexterity in his movements, fingers moving with newfound surety as they dance across pages and instrument keys alike. The physical toll of this battle manifests subtly but steadily. Neil's body is regaining strength during Cornelius's absences, muscles no longer languid from the entity's draining influence. Each day, he recovers more than he loses, his endurance bolstered by each successful test against the creeping darkness that seeks to claim him. Then, amidst the orchestrated chaos of sound and scribbled notes, a moment of profound insight strikes Neil. What's missing isn't merely an element within his music. It's a deeper harmony with forces beyond human comprehension. This realization propels him into action. He must implement this newfound understanding before Cornelius returns from his slumber. As the day wanes and shadows stretch across the room, Neil plays on, fingers moving over keys in a crescendo of effort that blurs boundaries between worlds. There's an undeniable sense that reality itself is responding to these specific vibrations, notes hanging suspended as though plucked from the fabric of existence. The psychological weight pressing down upon him doesn't falter. Every note played is both resistance and revelation, a fight against more than just Cornelius, but perhaps something far greater threatening all. Yet within this struggle lies an emerging confidence born of tangible progress, tempered by the lurking fear that his efforts might merely be delaying an inevitable confrontation. The evening draws to a close with Neil collapsing into bed, exhaustion claimed yet untroubled sleep finally upon him. As he drifts off, there's a sense that each restful night brings him closer to completing this incomplete symphony, one note at a time, while subtle indications suggest the battle may soon reach its crescendo. In the heart of Charnwood, a small plot of land shadowed by Castlefield's sprawling expanse, stood Neil's humble shack, its walls suffused with an unusual light that seemed to dance across the wooden floorboards. This was no ordinary evening. It marked the cusp of revelation as Neil stepped into his music room, imbued not just with determination, but a palpable energy coursing through him. The air in the room hummed with anticipation, vibrating softly beneath Neil's feet, a gentle touch that resonated up through his soles and mingled intimately with his heartbeat. The instruments he had arranged, each discovered position a testament to countless hours of trial and error, stood like silent sentinels awaiting their conductor's command. A sense of reverence guided Neil as he approached them, each movement precise, almost ceremonious. His hands, surprisingly steady despite the gravity of what was at stake, placed the amulet atop an audio interface positioned at a focal point that seemed to call out to him through its silence. This wasn't just placement, it was an offering, each note awaiting its amplification in this consecrated space. The first notes hesitated on his lips, and from the keys, a timid beginning akin to awakening something dormant within himself. Yet, as he found a rhythm, confidence swelled within Neil like a tide drawn by some unseen moon. The music grew. It was no longer merely sound, but an otherworldly symphony that defied logic, yet resonated with truth. The room transformed around him, light bending and weaving through the air in spectral patterns that mirrored his notes. It seemed to breathe, its very essence vibrating at a cellular level under Neil's touch. The sharp scent of something pure and unnameable filled the air whenever certain chords were struck, a fragrance as alien yet familiar as ancient memory itself. As he played, each note began to generate itself, unfurling into existence with an authority that transcended his conscious intentions. It was a revelation. Music had always been Neil's language, but now it became his salvation, its melodies reaching out like tendrils of understanding that bound him back together, piece by fragmented piece. There were moments when the shack seemed to shrink and expand simultaneously, reality bending under the weight of these cosmic harmonies. Brief flashes of other dimensions flickered at the edges of Neil's vision, a glimpse into a realm where music was not mere art, but elemental truth. In this symphony that now filled his home, Neil discovered he wasn't just playing notes. He had become an instrument himself, guided by forces both benevolent and ancient. His past life's memories no longer fragmented shards, but pieces of strength fueling him onward as they strengthened the harmony emanating from within. The shack was alive with this transcendent sound, a magnum opus that soared above all Neil had ever crafted, its purity a stark contrast to the discord sown by Cornelius's influence. It represented not just his own salvation, but also harbored the potential for destruction, the end of Cornelius's grip on him, as he tapped into forces beyond their malevolent reach. As the final note hung in the air, a pure, vibrating testament to Neil's newfound mastery, he understood that this music was more than sound. It was an echo of his soul reborn, and with each beat resonating through Charnwood, Cornelius's hold weakened, unraveling thread by cosmic thread until only Neil remained, whole and unfettered at last. In the embrace of these transcendent harmonies, Neil found himself anew, a conduit for forces as ancient and profound as time itself, a beacon in the struggle between light and darkness. Neil's shack at Charnwood is teetering on the edge of reality itself. The once sturdy wooden structure creaks and groans under a supernatural strain as dimensions begin to intersect with each pulsating note from Neil's instruments. Outside, shadows flit across the night sky like restless spirits. As Neil sits before his strange instruments, he begins to play. Each sound is pure and resonant, echoing through every corner of the shack like a call to distant realms. The air inside thickens with anticipation as the music's vibrations ripple outward, causing wood panels to warp subtly beneath their touch. Suddenly, shadows in the corners sharpen into forms, fearful silhouettes given life by Neil's transcendent melody. Among them materializes Cornelius. His form coalesces from darkness itself, a grotesque figure shimmering with an otherworldly energy that is both malevolent and captivating. Cornelius's initial arrogance is palpable. He regards the shack as merely another vessel for his twisted machinations. But as Neil's fingers dance across the keys, Cornelius begins to tremble, a sensation alien and terrifying in its intensity. The shack itself seems to respond with increasing urgency. Nails pull free from their wood prisons. Boards twist like sinewy limbs of a living creature. Each note resonates through space-time, distorting reality around Neil and Cornelius alike. Time stretches thin as if it were a taut thread on the verge of snapping. The air grows dense with electric tension as the amulet dangling around Neil's neck pulses with an unearthly glow, its light intensifying in rhythm with the music, becoming both beacon and amplifier for forces beyond human comprehension. The shack's walls shimmer like heat above scorching pavement. Dimensions overlap, creating a kaleidoscopic vortex that envelops everything within its grasp. Cornelius recoils from the relentless assault of sound, a cacophony more profound than anything he has encountered in his eternal existence. His form flickers and wavers, as if dissolving into nothingness under Neil's melodic barrage. With each measure, Cornelius's desperation grows palpable. Fear etches itself onto features not meant to feel. Neil remains resolute, a newfound determination guiding him. Memories of everything he has witnessed fuel his resolve. The shack groans and trembles like an ancient beast caught in the throes of metamorphosis as Neil draws nearer to his climactic crescendo. The soundscape around them is unlike anything conceivable, a symphony that spans multiple dimensions, each note vibrating at a frequency where worlds overlap. The air tastes metallic and electric. It fills one's mouth with the tang of impending cataclysm. Neil's senses are heightened beyond their human limits. He feels every vibration as a tactile caress against his skin, each note carving its way through the very fabric of existence. He hears Cornelius's ragged breaths, frantic gasps that betray an entity unaccustomed to fear or vulnerability. As reality begins to thin around them like mist before dawn, Neil sees not only Cornelius, but glimpses of dimensions unfathomable and terrifying in their complexity. These visions are fleeting yet profound. The shack is no longer a mere shelter, but a nexus where cosmic forces converge. Neil's consciousness has been transformed. He's become an active participant in this unfolding drama, wielding music as his weapon against ancient evil. Cornelius experiences emotions entirely foreign to him. Fear mingles with desperation, creating tremors that ripple through the very essence of who he is. The hunter becomes the hunted, a role reversal so complete it threatens to unravel both Neil's resolve and Cornelius's existence. As the final stage of weakening begins, Cornelius's form shudders and starts to fray at its edges. The shack seems to hold its breath as reality strains against itself, threatening to rupture under the strain of forces beyond mortal comprehension. Neil pushes forward with a crescendo that feels like thunder rolling across an endless horizon, a melody so profound it threatens to reshape everything in existence. Cornelius's shrieks pierce through this storm, desperate cries echoing into nothingness as his form begins unraveling completely, threads of darkness dissipating into the void. The shack and all within it stand on the precipice. Reality teeters between restoration and collapse, and then silence. A stillness so profound that it feels almost sacred. Neil sits motionless at his piano, breath coming in ragged gasps as he realizes what has transpired, a momentous victory against an ancient terror, sealed with melody. And just like that, the shack of Charnwood is once again enveloped in quiet darkness, save for the faint echo of a song that continues to reverberate through unseen dimensions.